I don't even remember how many days have passed. Maybe months. I will still try to contact at least anyone. It happened so fast. No one was ready for that. In the beginning they called it intelligence. But after came Sam. No one was able to do anything. But it is possible to revert everything they done. Listen carefully. You just need to...
Oh, hello my friends. It was a very interesting year. I decided to try the whole Apple ecosystem. After Nokia phones, I used only Android. It is the first time I ever try an iPhone. The experience was very strange. It gave me lots of surprises that I was totally unaware of. But in the end, did I like it? Can a lifetime Android user be lured into the secret Apple garden? I want to make a reminder. Everything stated further is my personal experience, how I felt. Keep in mind before commenting, and instead of getting angry with me, I want to know your opinion, how you feel about Apple devices, and what is your experience. I tried to replace all my devices with Apple. And I also bought Zephyrus from Asus with 32 gigs of soldered, unchangeable RAM on 16 and 14 inch, with NVIDIA RTX 4090 and 4070 graphics cards inside, with Ryzen and Intel Ultra processors that claim to be an Apple efficiency killer. I placed my old HP plastic laptop on shelf, and since that time it is literally was covered by dust. Subscribe not to miss out the large laptop battle, with in-depth tests of raw performance inside lots of apps for photo editing, video editing, music and audio creation, 3D rendering, Unreal Engine, programming, and of course, gaming benchmarks. It will be fun, because I find laptops to be more interesting to me than phones and cameras. And I think that, in not so distant future, laptops will completely replace stationary computers. Of course, as always, everything you see on TV and on the internet is always true, and according to what I learned, I was expecting next features that I want to read for you. First, luxurious device with beautiful design and quality materials. Next, very intuitive, logical operating system that is very stable, has zero problems or bugs, looks smooth and is very user-friendly. Everything works like magic. All Apple devices work with each other out of the box. It is unlike anything on the market. All other brands just nowhere near the ease of use of perfect Apple ecosystem, where everything naturally, organically communicates. No need to dance around anything, just set and go. Very simple. One of the best, if not the best camera system, that gives a very natural, organic, toned-down filmic look. Unlike other brands, or Chinese cheap nonsense with ugly oversaturation, over-sharpness, and AI robotic morphings. The best camera is one that you have with you, and iPhone will always be your helping hand, with professional ProRes and beautiful photography. And one of the best, no, not one, the best video on the market. Even iPhone 8 will blow anything out of the water. Do not buy camera, just buy iPhone X, and you will still have very good filmmaking experience. And iPhone 13, 14, 15, and now brand new 16 Pro Max will blow you away with cinematic modes and godsend Apple Log with Apple ProRes 4444, with ability to connect external SSD. Just rig everything out and become professional filmmaker, because it is possible to make a Netflix-approved bestseller with your expensive but well worth it iPhone 16 Pro Max. One of the best, no again, the best speakers inside a small smartphone, industry standard. If you are using even the most expensive Android smartphone, it is like using budget sedan, like Toyota Prius. But if you are buying even mid-range Apple iPhone, you are opening yourself for a whole new world of luxurious experience, like a very expensive SUV, Mercedes, Ferrari, Rolls-Royce, Maserati, Lamborghini.
Senpai!
And after 1 year of use, is anything of the above is even close to reality? Oh boy, I do not know even where to start. First of all, I bought 13 Pro for multiple reasons. At that time, 15 Pro was only announced, and there were almost zero reasons to buy 14 Pro or even 15 Pro. Almost nothing was improved, almost nothing was changed. Camera performance, despite changes in the hardware, gave almost zero improvements in the final results and sometimes debatably became worse in some areas. Despite my personal love with 11 Pro design and handling experience, it is a very outdated device with tons of compromises in all areas, especially battery life. 12 Pro was a lot better, but still battery life performance was to be desired. And 13 Pro was noticeable improvement in terms of battery, and for the first time we can actually see some camera results improvements in low light. And today, after 16 Pro Max was brought to the market, and 100% with undeniable facts was proven to be worse in some aspects and camera performance versus 15 Pro Max, I can say that I made the right choice to try Apple devices with 13 Pro. Initially I wanted to try 13 mini, but the performance and hardware was just a total joke. And 13 Pro was still small, 6.1-inch size. I wanted to test, can it be more comfortable than my 6.8-inch Android Chinese devices? And this was my first biggest surprise. Despite being small on the paper, it was one of the most uncomfortable devices for my hand. It has flat, sharp corners that pierce in my hand, forcing me to hold it in the specific, uncomfortable way.
You are just holding your iPhone, Veron.
Yeah, right. And while iPhone looks schmexy and sleek on 3D renders, while touching it in person, looks like it is not so well built and it does not feel so premium and luxurious as everyone claims it to be. Especially camera bump. It is just personal taste, but I see nothing special in Apple devices. Something like Apple Watch feels extra cheap, with cheap glass and aluminum, vulnerable for damage. And overall, I can characterize the design of all Apple products as bland and boring. And one more thing. Looks like they prioritize looks over functionality. They can easily remove 3.5mm audio jack just for the sake of it looking of more how they see so-called futuristic style of the device. Despite it in reality looking nothing like future, but having less functions. But I liked physical mute button, like I left one on Oppo smartphones. Operating system. You know, everyone kept telling me how it is different from Android, that it is completely new, that it not only looks different but feels different, with Apple exclusive features. But what was my surprise? That for me it felt like very unintuitive, the most unlogical, awkward, cheap Android skin with tons of restrictions and basic functionality that everyone expects, completely missing from the device. First of all, it was a revelation that you simply cannot install your own applications on your device. Like, what? No, really. First time I thought it was a joke. And no way in 2025, worldwide, one of the most popular devices that everyone keeps talking about does not have any ability to send, receive or just simply install any application whatsoever. While I'm writing this text to the video, I still cannot believe it. How it is humanly possible? The only way to have desired app on your smartphone from Apple to make an Apple ID, give your credit card information, and download it from the Apple Store.
Built have managed to stay one step ahead of the bad guys. Long story short, iPhone's security approach has worked. But you don't have to take my word for it, because the security community regularly says things like this. Quote, Apple's iOS devices are the most secure consumer hardware ever made. But let's look at some numbers, because when we compare iOS to other platforms, a clear story emerges. Here's a graph showing third-party data on malware infections by platform, and you can see iPhone barely registers. But the level of attacks on other platforms is a different story. One security firm found more than 5 million attacks per month on its clients using another mobile platform. But there's never been this kind of widespread consumer malware attack on iOS. So what's the difference? Well, the single biggest reason is that other platforms allow sideloading. And on iPhone, sideloading would mean downloading software directly from the open internet or from third-party stores, bypassing the protections of the App Store. And we talked about the pillars that protect customers on iPhone. With sideloading, those layered protections are undone. There's no human app review and no single point of distribution for sideloaded apps. The floodgates are open for malware, and we're not the only ones who think this is risky. Here's what the leading cybersecurity government agencies have to say. According to Europol, users should, quote, only install apps from official app stores. And other government agencies in Europe and the US draw exactly the same conclusion. There's a clear consensus here, and it's that sideloading undermines security and puts people's data at risk. Now this brings us back to the Digital Markets Act. But before I proceed, I do want to try a little bit of audience participation. A quick show of hands, how many of you carry an iPhone? But if this group mirrored Apple's smartphone market share in Europe, the answer would be about 1 in 5 of you. And that's okay with us, because at Apple, our goal has never been to sell the most. Instead, our mission is to provide people with a choice of what we view as the best. Now, back to the DMA, because the DMA has an admirable mission to promote competition and to make sure that consumers have choice. And I'm a big fan of both of these goals. But as an engineer who wants iPhone to stay as secure as possible for our users, there is one part I worry about. And that's the provision that would require iPhone to allow sideloading. Because in the name of giving users more choice, that one provision would take away consumers' choice of a more secure platform. And all this comes at a time when people are keeping more personal and sensitive information than ever on their iPhones. And I can tell you, there have never been more cybercriminals so determined to get their hands on it. So now let's return back to our favorite house. As you remember, you made a choice. You wanted to protect your family, so you bought a really safe home with a really great security system. And you're really glad you did. Because since you first moved in, the burglars have never been more creative or more plentiful. And in the real world of cybersecurity, this couldn't be more true. Attackers are virtually dressing up as mailmen, building tunnels underground, and trying to scale your backyard walls with grappling hooks. In this world, some of your neighbors are suffering repeated break-ins, but the home you have has kept you safe. But then that new law gets passed. And in the noble pursuit of, say, more optimized package delivery, your town requires everyone to build an always unlocked side door on the ground floor of their homes. Now, some of your neighbors, they love this idea, but you're not so sure. Because you know that once the side door is built, anyone can walk through it. The safe house that you chose now has a fatal flaw in its security system, and burglars are really good at exploiting it. In a nutshell, sideloading is that unlocked side door, and requiring it on iPhone would give cybercriminals an easy point of entry into your device. Now, we don't think anyone wants that, least of all the policymakers intending to give users more choice and more protections. And European policymakers have often been ahead of the curve. But requiring sideloading on iPhone would be a step backward. Instead of creating choice, it would open up a Pandora's box of unreviewed, malware-ridden software and deny everyone the option of iPhone's secure approach. So clearly, I'm no fan of sideloading, but I want to address an argument that I hear a lot. And it goes something like this. Let people choose whether or not to sideload. Let them judge the risks, and they can decide for themselves. And it's easy to see the attraction of this argument. But history shows us it doesn't play out the way that we'd hope. Because even if you have no intention of sideloading, people are routinely coerced or tricked into doing it. And that's true across the board, even on platforms like Android that make sideloading somewhat difficult to do. So let me just show you a few examples. Take this official-looking website, which looks like a government page where you can download an app to track the spread of COVID-19. They even provide official-looking instructions on how to download it. But after you download, you realize you've been had, because instead of an app, you have a healthy dose of ransomware. Sideloaded an app that was a vehicle for malware. Another example, let's say that you decide to only download apps from the official app store because you've decided that's the safest thing to do. Well, which store was that? Because one of cybercriminals' all-time favorite strategies is to mimic official app stores, leaving everyone totally confused. And this happens all the time. At one point, a security firm found 27 malicious apps that prompted users to download a fake Google Play Store, infecting their phones with adware. Criminals are clever, and they're really good at hiding in plain sight. But I wish this were the end of the story. But cybercriminals aren't the only ones we have to worry about. So let's say you go to the official app store and you're looking for a social networking app that your friends are all on, but it isn't there because some social networking apps will probably try to avoid the pesky privacy protections of the app store and only make their apps available via sideloading. Privacy features that go beyond the bare minimum legal standards, the ones that users truly rely on to keep their information safe, well, these would no longer exist for these apps. And you'd be stuck with the alternative of losing touch with your friends online or taking on the risks of sideloading. Now, maybe you're thinking all this might be true, but I'll never download a sideloading-only app, and I won't be tricked into sideloading. Well, that might be true for you, but your child might be fooled, or your parents might be fooled. And even if you see through every deception, the fact that anyone can be harmed by malware isn't something that we should stand for. The fact is, one compromised device, including a mobile phone, can pose a threat to an entire network.
The only reason why it is the case, because Apple wants to have a 30% cut of any transaction, even inside pay-to-win cash grab scam games. That's all. I do not believe even a single word from this corporation about security and safety. Their analogy to the backdoor in my house is so freaking stupid. So they want to say that I do not want the thieves to have access to my backdoor, but this is my house, not Apple's. I have bought this house but not rented it. Some random corporation still have access to my house, my information, and my family bed, and control everything I do in my home. Pure idiotic, crazy statements that belong to the asylum. And by the way, Apple invented the term sideloading to brainwash people. To anyone who want to mention this term, I will say there is no such thing as sideloading. It does not exist. There is only downloading and installing. We are downloading, but not sideloading. This is beyond stupid. And by the way, I was able to register Apple ID only from third attempt. First time I could not receive an SMS, and after multiple tries, it said to me to wait for freaking 24 hours. And even Apple support could not help. They just said to me, wait 24 hours. Next time I was ready to get an SMS, but it was stuck on the page with my credit card information, After multiple tries, the same wait for 24 hours text on the screen. Online support said that it was not meant to be this hard, but I needed to wait for another 24 hours. After 4 days of torture, I finally was able to have my Apple ID to download free apps. I was sick and tired of this. So, I found information about Troll Store. From the dawn of times, Apple users got used of being abused hardly, but some of them had enough. And the jailbreak was invented. Some users hacked iPhone and gave you ability to, you will never guess, to install apps and modes to customize your smartphone. For example, change keyboard, or install the ability to turn on dark mode. In other words, basic functionality that everyone outside of Apple world was already used to and expected even on potato cheapest devices. While time went, under the pressure, Apple kept adding some of these functions, while still not agreeing with it. But even to this day, one specific feature is still missing inside Secret Apple Garden, under two very tall and thick metal electric walls, with sharp razor wires. It is installing of apps. Apple made it crystal clear that they have no intentions to give you freedom.
Screw your freedom. I'm here for yours.
And device you bought is not yours, but rented from Apple. They will never give up 30% cut from money transactions away and will protect it with all cost, will stick to their guns and are ready to die on that hill. They went so far that they hired original creator of Jailbreak to work at Apple to patch any possible vulnerabilities, so their loyal customer base can never have an ability to jailbreak their devices and install apps outside of App Store. At this moment, Apple is actively fighting the EU laws and regulations and try to make it impossible for app developers to distribute their apps outside of Apple's App Store. So, about Troll Store, and what is it? I found the information that you can still jailbreak your iOS device and install Troll Store, an alternative store where you can download apps or install your own. But your device needs to be a specific model and specific firmware version. After Apple hired Jailbreak Creator to work, it became hard to jailbreak your device. There are two types of jailbreaks, permanent and non-permanent, where you need to repeat jailbreak process each time you restart your device. Yes, it is not a joke. You literally have to hack your iPhone each time you decide to press restart button, just to get a basic functionality that you can find on any budget device outside of Apple. So, that's why I bought Apple smartphone with specific version, with iOS 16.5. And although the process did not look that hard, it still had multiple steps and was very tedious. And I felt like, what am I doing with my life? How it is even possible that I spend that much money and have to suffer through all this? But something happened that changed everything. First of all, I had problems with Apple Watch. Despite everyone kept telling me that Apple ecosystem is magic and everything just works, iPhone refused to pair with my Apple Watch Series 6, and it was not an easy task to understand why. But after multiple days of research, I found out that I have the more new firmware version of Apple Watch, and phone artificially refused to pair. Apple want to force me to update my device to newer version, where Jailbreak Creator fixes holes in the code, making jailbreak unusable. So I had only two options, either to buy Apple Watch with different version, which is pure lottery and casino because no one stating or even knowing what version they have, or completely give up on jailbreak and Troll Store and fall into the Apple's hand and their death grip on my wallet. After more research, I realized that there is almost no reason to jailbreak, because almost no developer make nice apps outside of Apple's App Store, because Apple made everything they could to make it uncomfortable or simply impossible. And heck, I'm trying Apple ecosystem for hell's sake. Why not to feel the full Apple experience on my skin? How it feels to be a genuine Apple fanboy and use this device as Apple intended. And it was a time where I decided to update iOS 70.5.1. After that, I had problems with Apple Watch again. I needed to update them, but after that, I was able to pair them. So, behold, the almighty God-sent operating system that should make any Android or Windows phone eat the dirt. But only in the abstract dreams. The reality uncovered me another picture. I will describe my experience like this. Why so unintuitive? Why so unlogical? Starting from the universal gestures. It only works from one side, and in one application you swipe from left side, and left side only. In other you need to press small, uncomfortable virtual button on the top. You won't believe. On the right. Are you freaking serious? In the apps where you can scroll pictures or pages, you need to swipe down, but not in every app. There are no settings in the apps. No, really, I'm not joking. There are no settings in the apps. You need to minimize the app, go to the settings, scroll from the large list of installed apps, reach the bottom of the list, realize that you have missed it, go up again. Finally, find an app settings, go inside, make a change, minimize settings tab, and go to your app. Apple, is everything alright? Are you okay? And here what drives me nuts. By the time of making this video, during this year, there were literally, and I am not joking here, no way to customize your icons on your home screen. And I'm not talking about changing the style, images or font of the icons. I'm talking about, stay with me here, changing the place of the icons on the screen. You could not drag and place them in the bottom of the home screen. Everything sticks to top. You could not place couple of icons in the middle, couple in the top. You could not have an empty page with only widgets. They literally freaking stick to the top of the screen, one after another. And you know the saddest part here? A very large amount of Apple users tried to defend it. They told that this way screen is more organized, and if Apple ever gives a freedom, it will be chaos and everything will be a mess. But not only they kept defending this shit. Lots of comments were very rude, with insult and offensive behavior. Hell, what is wrong with this situation? I can't make this shit up, even if I tried. And Apple was ready to die on that hill. But after iOS 18, they finally gave us an ability to move icons and change their style and color. They even had a large portion of 2024 presentation reserved for this feature alone. Finally, what even cheap Androids could do for 15 freaking years. We, the chosen ones, who are higher in the human food chain, can do this too now. Alright, I need to calm the freak down. Oh, and I had a lot more problems like this too. Apple keyboard. It is very uncomfortable. To get access to special symbols, like dot or comma, you know, stuff that any normal humanoid uses during his day hundreds of times, you need to press special button. It leads for a tedious process where instead of easy and fast typing, you need to make multiple clicks. Crazy stuff. In the album, you cannot sort your photos and videos easily like on any normal device. By default it shows you the oldest shots. You need to press on the top, it will scroll everything down. Brilliant, so logical. You cannot turn off your Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. Even if you press the icon to turn it off, it will say that it turns it off until next day. And it indeed will fully turn it on, by itself, the next day. Like, it cannot become more stupid than this. It is not a joke. No, I will say differently. Is it a joke? Apple, are you insane? It is my device. Only I can tell it what it can or cannot turn on or off. And you know what? Even if you turn it off, it is still not completely off. It sends and receives signals and track your position and spies some telemetry. It is a part of their Find My Device feature, and Apple works with government of every country and will give anything at any given time if needed to shadow organization for who knows what purposes. It drains battery and makes me wonder, do I own this device, or am I renting it from Apple? And speaking about Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, Apple has Airdrop feature, the same wireless file sending method as on all other devices outside of Apple Asylum. But their smartphones have one of the worst and slow, cheap wired transfer speed possible. And 13 Pro has very old, outdated Lightning port instead of USB Type-C. That is literally, without joke, multiple dozens of times slower than some cheap offerings on Android. And even if speeds were high, which they are not, transferring files to Macintosh Apple laptop by wire is a nightmare. It is impossible just to drag and drop files in the File Explorer with organized folders. You need to use another methods, like third-party apps, like iTunes for music, but with weird, synchronized button. Complete Pure Lovecraftian crazy insanity. So, it forces you to use wireless AirDrop, and you know what? It was a lot faster and a lot more easy and comfortable to use AirDrop with Android phone with third-party app and Macintosh laptop than to use Apple's own smartphone. You cannot choose where to save your files. Everything goes into Downloads folder. You cannot select all the files, it has a limit. And you cannot minimize anything on your iPhone, otherwise it can fail. I'm not joking, I am serious. It was easy to use Android with MacBook than an iPhone. I suggest to use a program called Local Cant. But do not look on it on Play Store, just find it in a browser search on their website. It is open source program and works with all devices. It is more easy and has more clear UI. And you can select where to download the file, even on external hard drive and SSD. Wireless hotspot feature. You know what is funny? It was a lot more easy and more stable to give Ethernet connection to all my Apple devices via my Android phone. The speeds were way higher. I never even once lost connections, and I could connect any amount of devices. While on iPhone it was very slow, unstable. I could connect only limited amount of devices, and to connect another one, I had to disconnect some of them. And the most annoying, my MacBook kept disconnecting, and I had to constantly reconnect it. And battery on iPhone drained like crazy. I could not turn on hotspot feature without charging it. What a joke. I faced the problems where if I send files via messengers, such as Telegram, if I minimize the window, uploading completely stops. So it forced me to keep the app open for solid 20 minutes, keeping my device and me hostage. Also, I noticed that even despite famous Apple RAM, apps keep resetting in the background. You know, I completely dislike the operating system on Apple smartphone. And even Apple apps, like Notes, Calendar, Maps, they lacked some features I needed. Have the same weird, unintuitive, unlogical buttons, and it works only with Apple devices. I found myself downloading another application, such as Google and others. So what is the whole purpose of this whole Apple ecosystem then? Speaking about ecosystem, first of all, not everything works without Apple ID. Communication between a laptop, smartphone and tablet, for example. What if I am using my wife's tablet with my own laptop? I faced lots of restrictions that not only made this whole Apple magical ecosystem not unique in its kind, but lacking some features that I had with my Windows and Android devices. The AirPods. The first time you open them, Apple devices will have a pop-up window for pairing. Wow, what a brand new feature that Android phones have also. It is a topic for another video, but if you are not pleased with AirPods, like I was, battery life is a joke, build quality is trash, and they drain the charge even when the case is closed, what will I do? Of course, I will try to find headphones from another brand. Because Apple removed freaking 3.5mm audio jack and made it impossible to use good quality microphones, external speakers, and studio quality headphones without ugly dongles that lack good amplifiers. So the only solution is to use wireless, expensive, but still mediocre AirPods and other brands' buds. But if you are starting to use devices of another brand, what is the point? And all this talks about magical Apple ecosystem. So I found for myself that it is a lot more easy to use another devices with Apple than their own products. So all the talks about smooth and otherworldly operating system, ease of use and supreme heavenly ecosystem are just a marketing fluff and brainwashing. So what all this torture and pain is all for? Maybe cameras will change everything. Photography and videography performance. There must be a reason why Apple smartphone is considered to be the best for their camera performance. Beyond demigod performance and silky buttery smooth stabilization. Here is where we can spread our wings and finally show the Apple dominance, right? No. I was so disappointed of Apple camera performance that I can declare it one of the worst smartphones for photography, with the most ugly results and bad, mediocre at best video performance. No matter what device you have, iPhone 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 Pro Max, all these phones will have the exact same problems. I even made a full in-depth video with 16 Pro Max examples, where I show why I hate iPhone for photo and video. It is my previous video, it is called iPhone photos have big problems. I will leave the link in the description and pinned comment. And I want to bet that all these problems will be even in the next iPhone 17 Pro Max. Low contrast and light leaks from bad, non-existing coatings on lenses. Over-sharpened image on high contrasting edges. The most ugly skin tones and faces of people of all colors, with weird red, yellow, and most importantly, orange tint that even Donald Trump will be jealous of. And ugly, unnatural AI morphing, so artificial look. And of course, very dirty image in low light, with tons of noise, mushiness and low amount of real details. I have some 16 Pro Max footage and I can't believe what I'm looking at. How it is possible that $1,300+ phone looks like $200 budget no-name ripoff made inside the basement. And by the way, in my place, official Apple store sells 16 Pro Max for $2,300 for 256 gigs of storage. Yeah, right. I won't stay too much on the photography here. You can watch my iPhone photography video if you want to. And video. I will say a couple of words. It is so easy to spot an iPhone look on YouTube videos. Some of travel bloggers my wife watches, who have iPhone 15 Pro Max, have very distinctive yellow-brown tint on the footage, tons of light leaks and destructive lens flares. And most funny stuff, HDR orange Donald Trump faces. Why no one noticing it? And my 13 Pro is pure abysmal experience. Image is just cheap looking, with lots of problems and headaches. Image just looks bad, with weird exposure behavior and blown out highlights. In the evening colors becomes slightly better, but only because Apple phones start to lose color information, and it is impossible for it to give you an orange face that it desires so much. Speaking about Apple Log and ProRes, the most useless codec that is used in the specific, very niche scenarios that has nothing to do with just average mom and dad users, YouTubers and bloggers. In Apple ProRes, Apple did the Apple thing. You cannot control your bitrate. It has the naming list from ProRes HQ to ProRes Proxy that has bitrate specifically limited to this name. Typical Apple logic and style. So, the more the bitrate, the higher will be your file sizes. It has nothing to do with resolution, colors, only bitrate. You can have 8K 14-bit footage with smaller file sizes than 2K 8-bit footage if bitrate is too high. And if your hardware is trash and image on the screen is poor, your video will still be bad, but with large bitrate you will have enormous, gigantic file sizes. That's why Apple users recommend to use external SSD disk. And for what? Just your hobby YouTube videos? You are getting additional steps, headaches, extra weight for nothing, just for larger file sizes. With only one USB Type-C port and how to connect external microphones. Bitrate of 4K ProRes footage is gigabits per second, not megabits, gigabits. It will take you nice 4TB SSD disk just to film your cats for your YouTube videos. It is crazy, my friends. You absolutely do not need a ProRes and high bitrate. It does not make videos better, and it does not make sense to tell the truth. Even if we are talking about filmmaking, cinema, camera is on the bottom of the barrel in the list of what is most important to make a good movie. First of all goes narrative, good story. Next, jokes, inspiration and philosophical questions. Next goes audio recording and sound, ambience and atmosphere. Next, the same important, goes lighting, lamps, how you light your model and scene to create the mood. Next goes additional props, costumes and outfits, makeup. And only somewhere in the bottom, after another 10 lines, goes your camera. And the lens choice is above it and more important. And let's go to the last topic, speakers and sound. And here, finally, I can say that I have nothing bad to say about speakers that Apple puts inside their devices. For example, laptops on Macintosh OS, I think that it is class-leading audio experience inside the portable form factor. And iPhone has very nice speakers, solid performance, but I will rate it as 3 stars out of 5. In the past, maybe it was different, but right now, all modern phone manufacturers not only caught up, but some go beyond the iPhone. Name any company and it will have slightly different, but the same performance. Xiaomi, Oppo, Vivo, Pixel. I can rate all of them as 3 out of 5 stars, with only Huawei and Honor being the noticeable exception. So my friends, can I recommend an Apple smartphone? If you absolutely love Apple devices and the most that you do with your computer is open Safari tab to watch cat reels, maybe it will be a great grandma phone level.
Buy your mom an iPhone.
But if I want to tell honestly, for me I do not think that I understand why this smartphone is on the place it is right now. How it is possible that people completely ignore all these problems and pretend that nothing happens. I'm not pleased with what I get for the money they charge in terms of design. Very outdated hardware, very restricted software, and final results. I tried my best to make it my main device. I tried even harder to make it my secondary device. But it does not make any sense for me, because nothing inside so-called Apple echo chamber is usable for me. Maybe except Apple laptop, but not in the way you might think. So, on this sad note, I want to end this video. You can watch a video where lifetime Windows and Android user unbox and try the whole basket of Apple devices. And I wish you a very Milky Way day. See you in the next one.